All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon or late morning. My name is Scott Light. I'm the Vice President of Churchill Systems. Churchill is a software development business based in southeastern Michigan, where we specialize in providing AI technologies to major retailers here in the US and throughout the world. In addition to machine learning, Churchill also works quite a bit in the areas of expert systems, a number of different AI technologies, exponential smoothing, genetic algorithms, fuzzy logic, and so on. Joining me on the stage here this morning, I have two of veteran retail experts with me. In no particular order, we've got Randy Sally, former Senior Vice President of Walmart's ISD division, as well as Mr. Dale Cade, Principal Consultant of the Columbus Consulting Group, also a former Director of Walmart's ISD division, as well as the Fossil Group and the Container Store. Now, as most all of you have seen, AI is prevalent just everywhere in retail today. It's really become just in every type, from customer service to merchandise planning, supply chain, pricing and promotions, even generative AI and ChatGPT. And what we wanted to do today is take a few minutes and really discuss some of the practical and effective approaches to integrating AI into your existing retail planning systems. So without further ado, let's get practical. Let's talk about some of our experiences that we've had in integrating AI into all sorts of different retailers. So what we're going to do is go through a few different questions that we've come up with from all of our years of experience in the industry, and try to talk about where to get started when we're talking about integrating AI into a retail environment. Whether you're brand new to some of these more advanced applications, or whether you're looking to upgrade from your existing planning systems and looking to provide a little bit more science and technology to the existing environment you have. So we'll start right off. Randy, I'll start with you. Where do you see these AI applications really providing the most benefit to some of these retailers in the world today?
Yeah. So Scott, as you walk around the floor here today, yesterday, AI is almost in every booth. I mean, it's been without a doubt, just kind of the hype, if you will, for this last year with ChatGPT getting exposed, et cetera. And I believe there's tremendous value for retailers by using some of the generative AI technologies, but I think the bulk of that will probably be back office kinds of functions, potentially integrating with your e-commerce search capabilities, et cetera. But, for decades, we've come to this conference and other retail conference, it's always been about getting the right product at the right location, at the right time, at the right price. I mean, we've heard that mantra forever.
Sure.
And so when I think about, AI within the retail space, I tend to think about those kinds of opportunities, which leads to, how do you do your demand forecasting? How do you manage your seasonal profiles? What do you do with price and promotion and the impact upon that against your products? And those types of implementations of it, I think, is where you really see the benefit, because that's the challenge that we're all faced with every day: is how do we continue to provide that product at the right place, time, quantity, price for the consumer?
So you see it as leveraging the science to those planning systems, supply chain, pricing, merchandise planning, to really try and pinpoint where you're going to get the most efficiencies when you're placing product, when you're deciding what pricing to do, what type of discounting to do, the effectiveness of your promotions, that sort of thing?
Well, and truly understanding your demand. I mean, that sounds like a simple problem, but that's a really hard problem.
Sure.
Because there's so many components that run into that, whether it be, lost sales or weather or promotion. In the case, I grew up at Walmart, so we weren't very promotion focused. We were an everyday low price company, so promotion didn't play a big part of what we did. But being able to understand the impact of a particular promotion on an item, and ultimately, what is that going to do to demand?
Very good. Dale, what about yourself?
So Randy did a great job of talking about situations where retailers need to take a lot of information, channel it to a decision. I think there's another opportunity where you want to expand that out. For example, you're building content for catalog, your PDP, your PLP, marketing, where you're taking, you have information, but then you want to figure out, how do I take that and expand that out to a broader world? The generative AI is excellent on that. And then coming back again, once you've taken that marketing approach and you put that information out there and you've got customers that have done something, and you gather that information, then you channel it back again, then it becomes, and you feed back to that replenishment loop. And so you have the ability to do that. And the nice thing about generative AI is you can take the little bit of effort, you can create a different view, a different perspective, and you can quickly cater. That's, you have these huge companies that have tens of thousands of SKUs. I want to get it to a person. I want that person to make a decision, and then I want to see how that person makes that decision. And so on that back end, you have the ability to very quickly cater content to customers, and you can do that with a little bit of effort. And there's a lot of great products out there that do that. And even as simple as ChatGPT, it's with prompt engineering, you can do that very, very quickly. So you got that it really covers the whole gamut of things within retail.
Sure.
Get value from very quickly.
And certainly we've gone from one extreme where for many, many years we just had no ability to capture data, and we're very limited on that data resources and the ability to use that data for pinpointing promotions, pinpointing exactly where we needed our product to be placed, to where now there's almost too much data. There's so much data, and now it's saying, okay, what do we do with this wealth of information, and how do we really make some practical decisions based on this enormous wealth of data that we have available today?
Yeah, and that problem's not going away anytime soon.
No, it's not. So we talk about starting an AI initiative. Some people are further along the curve than others. What do you see, and Dale, I'll start with you, and when we're looking at starting out with an AI initiative, what kind of challenges do you see some of these retailers facing?
So the first challenge, and I think the greatest, it has nothing to do with technology. It's extremely human. There's a lot of fear around artificial intelligence. There's a lot of anxiety because there's a lot that's unknown. There's not a lot of legislation. There's not a lot of governance within the industry itself. And so there's a lot of hype, a lot of fear. So when a retailer starts, they have to address that directly. You have to engage the organization. You have to let people ask those questions. So you have to focus on transparency. People need to understand the process of, the process. The first question is, why are we doing AI? And answer people's fears and their concerns. They're real, legitimate. We were talking to a company yesterday, and they came and said their legal department has forbid any artificial intelligence solutions in their corporation because of those fears. Now, that's extreme, but that's there. So you got to address that first. Why do you want to do AI? Address the human limitations, questions, concerns, and you can do that. Companies have done it, and then finding the right solution, and that's difficult right now because there's a lot of solutions out there. So you've got to know the problem you're trying to solve, and then really dig into that solution and know what they provide. And that depth can be, hey, I just interface with ChatGPT, all the way to we have our own LLM that we build custom for you, and then that vendor gives it to you and you go manage it. So those are the challenges I see people having to get ahead of.
Absolutely. Randy, how about yourself?
Well, I think, back to starting the initiative, it all begins with, do you have the data to properly feed and train your models? And making sure you've got that historical data, that it is not necessarily a format, but it's clean data. You know what you're dealing with, and you've got that on hand and are able to deal with it. And when you're looking at that data, I think one of the other things is to understand the fidelity of the problem you're trying to solve. How precise do you need to be in your forecasting, for example? I know you and I had a conversation a few days back about a particular client that you've worked with that wanted a by day, by SKU, by store forecast.
Sure. I remember that.
And in our circumstance at Walmart, I mean, particularly in the general merchandise side, I mean, we had 100,000 plus SKUs, and a large percentage of those SKUs in general merchandise sold less than 1 unit a week. So if that's my rate of sale, I mean, how precise do I need to be at a daily forecast? It really wasn't necessary for us with the large proportion of our SKUs.
Sure. Where's the value in a daily forecast with those volumes?
Yeah, I mean, and just being practical about that. And, the other kind of tidbit about that, with the replenishment systems we ran at Walmart, roughly 70% of our replenishment decisions, it's time to send a case of product to the store, was driven by presentation quantity versus need and rate of sale. So really understanding that particular fidelity. And then Dale mentioned also being clear on the problem, being specific about the problem that you have to solve, and making sure that you are employing the right tool and capability and model for that particular problem. And part of what I have seen is just way too many people that have a solution that they're looking for a problem to attach it to. And that's generally not going to be a recipe for success at the end. But being very precise about, here's the problem, this is the outcome we're expecting, what's the proper tool to get after that?
And I would absolutely agree with you that from what we found, having a clear defined roadmap right from the start to say, what are the objectives of an AI initiative? What are the challenges that we're specifically trying to address? Because you don't have to take on the world all at once, but having those clear-cut, defined objectives it will really make or break the success of an initial AI application. And one thing I'll add to that as well, we talked about data for a moment. Having complete data is not always a requirement to get started with the AI applications. One of the, as much of importance in getting a successful AI application deployed is being able to take data that in the retail world is not complete, it's not always organized, or it's on the other extreme, just a big blob, and being able to have the expertise to organize that in a way that these different AI applications, neural networks, expert systems, things of that nature can process that, train off of it, and it doesn't necessarily need to be complete data. So you can start with what you have and then build from there.
Yep. And to Dale's point about the change management portion of it, and coupling that with your comment on roadmap, you can start small with the particular category and kind of limit the blast radius, if you will, through that initial implementation, and bring on manage that change management for the merchandisers or the planners or whoever you're having to interact with, and then build on success of that first implementation. Because managing that change management is a whole lot easier when you've got people in the organization saying, man, this thing is great and working fantastic.
Absolutely. And user adoption, change management, accepting that there is a major cultural shift when you're bringing these new technologies, this science to a group that, in many ways have been doing this for decades. And we've all heard this blending of art and science, but it is a real challenge. So you can get the technology right, you can get the improvements from a numbers and a mathematical standpoint, but getting the culture to adopt it is just as important as any of the technology implementation piece.
Yeah.
The people in your organization will very quickly realize if you're dehumanizing them to implement artificial intelligence. So
And the goal is to improve their work output and improve on the skills that they are currently bringing to the table. Very good.
And margins and sales.
So there's so many different stages of where retailers stand today. Some are just working in the most rudimentary, Excel spreadsheet-based planning systems. Some are working with some of the most cutting-edge planning applications that we see here at the show today. Make some comments, if you would, about retailers that already have a planning application in place. When they're looking to add AI to it, is it start from the ground up? Is it, where do they go?
Yeah. Well, Scott, to your point, I think everybody has some well-established planning system. And it could be, the end-all, be-all, soup to nuts, all singing, all dancing platform for one of the major suppliers of that type of software. Or it could be a giant spreadsheet that they've been managing their business on for decades. But everybody has some kind of system. And it doesn't have to be a rip and replace in order to move into the AI and begin to take advantage of AI to enhance whatever it is you're doing. Just an example from my past, we had a price management solution, store unique markdown solution, but we really felt we were giving away markdown dollars at some times because we tended to do, everybody gets the same markdown on the same day. And so we engaged with Churchill back in the day and brought them in with their neural nets. And we were able to take our historical data, sales data, and combine that with all of the price change activity we knew we had made, feed that into the neural net and understand what that price elasticity is. And we use that to help us on two different fronts. One was into season markdowns. It's time to get out of the particular category for whatever that season is. But not everybody needs the same markdown on the same day because I'm sitting with 150 on hand, you're sitting with 10. I need a big markdown, you probably don't need one at all. And how do you manage that? And the only way you can get there is knowing what how that a price change is going to affect that particular demand. On the flip side of that, for just our regular price changes, side counter items that I'm going to take a price reduction on, is that price reduction going to generate additional demand or not? And when we did see big signals of demand signal change, we were able to take that and feed it back into the replenishment systems so that we could replenish additional product in advance of the price change, so it's there when the price change happens, and we've got inventory in stock. And for us, it didn't require that we radically change our existing systems. We just set the model to the side, fed it data, got it properly trained, producing the right kind of output, and then fed that back into our existing systems to get the kind of outcomes we were looking for around markdown reduction and inventory management.
And to follow on to that, I think the best markdown that you can take is one that doesn't have to be taken in the first place by looking upstream from your season and getting that initial allocation right so that you have the right product in the right stores, especially for some of these shorter seasonal items that you may not have time to make a secondary or a third replenishment push. And so getting that initial set right is just as valuable as what markdown you'll need to take to reduce the markdowns and to begin with before you even get to that point.
And the other additional insights we were able to gain from that was not just the impact on that particular SKU, but the impact on that particular category through
sort of the cannibalization
portion of it. So taking this particular price change, I may drive volume to that particular item, but I'm going to cannibalize other items, and being able to see that across the total for the category or fine line or however you define your merchandise hierarchy was super important to us.
Dale, how about yourself?
So I harp on this just because I've learned it the hard way. Is when you're going to make this decision, you have to do some internal assessment. If you're getting ready to do, or you want to do a rip and replace, there's no reason to check up on that. Have the AI assessment part of the process. But at the same time, if you don't want to do that, there are solutions, good solutions. We've seen a couple so far that really do a good job of just layering on what you have, if that is what you need. I just encourage folks. AI is a technology. It's not cognitive. It doesn't think for itself. It will only do what you enable it to do by decisions that you make, and those decisions are very broad. But I was thinking of an example in the previous role as well, Randy, where we had a wholesale part of our business, and the account managers for the wholesale department, pulling in the sales numbers, they had to go to 165 different portals to pull data, consolidate that into Excel, massage it, then pass it back in upstream, and that took 3 days. It would go out Wednesday evening. The gentleman down there is nodding his head. So they have basically 1 day to analyze the data. Then they take Friday and get that back to the wholesalers to say, hey, based on a week-old data, we think you should do the following. So we introduced a solution to where, using AI technology, all that information was pulled, assembled, processed, pressed down Sunday night. The data analyst team would look at it Monday, double check, and then they had it to the sales department no later than noon on Monday. They loved it. Ran great for about 2.5 months. We had a little hiccup. It was going to take us a couple days to figure it out, and we were going to miss one of those loops, those cycles. And the VP called my desk, said, you need to turn that back on. I've restructured my whole department, my whole office. We've reset expectations for all of our partners. That needs to run on Sunday night. So what do you do in technology? You talk to your team, order pizza, work 2 straight days to get it in and hit the date. But when we did that technology, it was 3 or 4 people working. No one else had to do anything differently. And that's the power of the technologies that wrap around. Now, the rip and replace, sometimes that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And you just, you gird up your loins and go through the rip and replace. So the nice thing about it with that, you don't have to pick. You can use AI in both those solutions very, very easily.
So, just for repeating, some people are looking to completely put in a brand new planning system that may or may not already include AI, in which you can add the AI functionality to, whether we're talking about merchandise planning to build assortments, to get your initial sets, whether we're talking about those inventory management or replenishment systems so that you're getting the right replenishment to the right stores, or whether you're talking about these markdown applications, these pricing and promotion applications, so they can either be included in the new planning system or they can be added to something you have existing. And as many of us know, over the years, some of these existing planning applications get tweaked and customized and band-aided and get to a point where they look nothing like they did when they were first implemented.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, so one more for us while we have time here. If you had to prioritize one major quality when you're looking at a vendor to start an initial AI initiative, what would you look for if you had to make one choice?
So I would say you would want to understand the depth of that AI solution. And I'm just making this up. Let's say it's from 0 to 5. Because there's some vaporware out there. You can quickly get through that. But there's some that just do. Their solution is, hey, we call the ChatGPT APIs. It's not bad. If that's what you need, that's a shallow solution. Buy that solution, exploit the heck out of it. Make sure you get, a good deal with OpenAI. So it's, You want it as cheaply as possible, all the way to solutions that they'll come to your organization, build an LLM that's specific to you and turn it over to you to manage. That's a very deep solution. You have to have the staff for that, probably data science team. But that's what you want to look. Because if you just need shallow AI, don't buy the personalized LLM. Most solutions don't need that. But understand that depth and get the depth that's right. For you.
And I think that goes back to our earlier comment about having a clear-cut objective in mind of what challenges you're trying to address, so you can figure out what AI solutions works best for your company.
Because the deeper you go, it's going to cost you more. AI solutions aren't, you have to invest time. You have to invest staff, capital, OpEx, hardware, cloud vendors. So those have costs. You need to weigh that.
Very good. Randy, how about yourself?
Well, when I think about it, Scott, like anybody can have access to AI models. I mean, APIs into them, they're readily available. Anybody can go implement them. But if I'm thinking about, as your question asks, a partner that's going to help me along that journey, while the technical capabilities and their understanding of models is critically important, I think the most important thing for me would be, do they understand retail business? And what kind of experience do they bring to the table that would allow me to have the greatest opportunity for success? An example I would give is I had an opportunity to hear a pretty major retailer in a presentation several months back that had used AI for their bakery to help replenish ingredients into the bakery to go make the donuts or croissants or cakes or whatever.
Sure.
And as he told the story, they ended up totally missing the Easter holiday because they didn't replenish enough ingredients to make the stuff they needed to make. And I don't know all the backstory on that, but I'm pretty sure that the guy leading that from a technology standpoint really, really understood AI, but he really didn't understand the dynamics of the retail environment, because missing a major holiday is sort of a big deal.
Sure.
And so being able to have somebody by your side that truly understands retail, that has lived through those examples, that know the pitfalls, that have stepped in the mud holes, would be, to me, more important than just their technical expertise.
That's a great point. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, listen, that's about all the time that we have. I just want to take a moment and thank both Randy, Sally, and Dale Cade for taking the time to speak with all of us, as well as NRF for putting on a wonderful show. It's great this year as it is every year. If you have any follow-up questions, or you want to have some further discussion with Randy or Dale, we'll be at booth 1119 at the Churchill booth down on the first level. And as always, thank you to Columbus Consulting as well for their continued support. Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Have a great show.